Received 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday, the 5th of February.
Hi Miles, it's Michael here, just trying to get hold of you. About the Rockefeller clone, a couple of days before I saw the Basis 21, I said to Haley that I was convinced Supreme Rockefeller was one of my clones. And like I said this just before I saw the video. There's a book about him by some guy called Wes Penray, and he's saying that Supreme Rockefeller is a cyborg, and the Illuminati believe him to be the incarnation of Lucifer, and he was part of a batch of children in the 70s that were picked out. I think he's got this similar date of birth around the same time as me. Because the IBIS program was to select the 42 children, and the people running it were convinced one of them was the incarnation of Lucifer or Satan. That's the bottom line for looking at the children, really, I've recently discovered. Anyway, I'd like to set up a time to do the Basis interview, the new one, and talk about the Joint Base San Antonio and some of the details about what you and I need to discuss. Okay, hope you're well. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
3 to delete. 5 to call back. 9 to hear full list of options.
Would you like going back?
No, I'm not going back.
Oh my God! Why would you not go back? They won't let you back in the country.
They'll let me back. I just don't want to go back.
You mean you don't want all the wind and the wet and the cold weather and the changeable three seasons in one day?
No, I've got work to do here.
Well, welcome back. Keep on calling you James. Welcome back, Michael. I suppose I should call you Sir James.
I'm not a sir yet.
Oh, you
Not
said
yet.
yeah. Trick question.
Talking about sirs and dukes, I just like to say that when I met the Duke of Marlborough at Sotheby's, Evelyn Rothschild was there, and he's probably the richest man in the world. He's estimated to be worth around 30 trillion.
Almost the same debt that Britain has in credit cards.
Well, they're bringing the two bloodlines together, the Odin bloodline and the Zionist bloodline. So this meeting at Sotheby's, this had representatives from both sides here with the Rothschilds.
Now, interesting thing there was that you said that big diamond that you held, that big hunk of fake cut glass, run off on a mole somewhere, that was a jinn artifact.
Yeah, it was a topaz, a Brazilian princess, biggest in the world.
Now, the point about the jinn is they, according to legend, were banished by what some people call God or whatever, and they seem to be a bit annoyed about that and want to come back. Do they have anything to figure in this marriage between two bloodlines?
Well, this is the whole demonology aspect of the IBIS program. That gem is stored at the J.P. Morgan Hall of Gems in the American. There was a party at the J.P. Morgan Hall of Gems that night in New York, and Haley and I attended it, and we got friendly with Princess Diana's cousin there. And he took us to dinners and that, where I met Barack Obama's aide. I met one of the guys, top guys in the secret space program, the NSA. We're talking about the mega budget space program. And the highest ranking officer in the US Army is a guy called General Odierno. and I think he's a 5-star general. And before I entered the U.S. Army, I was supposed to meet his aide at the Viennese Opera Ball in New York. My wife's family was supposed to introduce me to him. And it was, I had to do some other training for the army, so I couldn't attend. But I knew that the General Odhiana, was sending his aide out to get a feel for me before I joined the army.
Okay. So, what's a little boy from Cornwall end up getting mixed up with some of these big guys? A
They
rebellious kid, according to your schoolmaster, bit full of fantasies and things like that, your school teacher said.
yeah, I'm sure they would say that. Yeah. They think that they think I'm a candidate for one of these 42 children
Why would they think that?
because I think it's come down to myself and David Rockefeller's son. People can't decide who it is.
Do you mean, Michael, that we could be talking to Lucifer himself right now?
That's the religion of the Illuminati. I don't really get into religious issues.
Well, I share that actually. Coming from Belfast, I say, thank God I'm not religious.
But this is what these people believe, and they seem to want to bring me into their circles to get to know me because of this.
And does this have benefits or does it have pitfalls?
Well, the night of the JP Morgan thing, they got the Brazilian princess out of the cabinet and they had me hold it. And they were trying to tune me into a being so I could track this being across America.
Yeah, I mean, a piece of diamond like that, they wouldn't let too many people touch. I have to say, you know, that's a pretty hefty piece. You had a bit of a smile on your face when you picked up that thing. Do you think you could sort of like slip it into your back pocket and they wouldn't notice?
It's actually a topaz, Miles. It's not a diamond.
All right. Now, what's the difference? I don't know the difference.
I think a topaz is not as precious.
Oh, you mean it's? Oh God. Yeah. Jeez.
So they wanted me. This being can shapeshift and look human and take on different forms.
Now, how does that work? Do they project to the viewer what their shape is, or do they actually change shape?
I don't know. I think it's a combination of both.
It's a bit like, you know, how a beautiful woman looks even better after 15 pints.
Yeah, I think it's similar
That kind
to
of fake illusion based on some kind of drug-induced or hypnagogic state. That's what I'm referring to.
I think they're releasing hormones from their skin that puts you in suggestible states. I think it's a lot of different things.
In other words, it's a king's new clothes situation. You're not
Yeah.
actually that shape, but everybody thinks you are.
Exactly. And I remember there was some shape shifting going on at the event with the Rothschilds. They were trying to get me to see if I could shapeshift, and they were shapeshifting themselves.
And, I mean, what does that mean? Do you grow hair like Michael Jackson and your teeth
They
go
were
out
trying
and
to
you
see if
you
I
have
could
a bad hair day or what?
They were seeing if I could shapeshift into what they looked like, which was like 7 foot tall green lizard men.
The old David Icke 7 foot tall green
Exactly.
lizard man thing.
Exactly.
Do you have
And
any representation of that? Can you send any representations of that in terms of an image or a drawing?
there's pictures on the internet that they look similar to, but I'm not very good at drawing, so I don't think I could really. I just described them. They're 8 feet, about 7. Some are 8 feet tall with green scales and like white horns, like bones on their head. Some of them, and I think Evelyn Rothschild has like a green tail.
A green tail?
Mm.
Okay.
They were trying to see if I could shapeshift to look like them, but because it's the two different bloodlines, I'm not able to do that.
I mean, you couldn't sort of do a quick shape shift for us now, just to sort of show us?
What I seem to do is swell up. get bigger and my bones start cracking. And sometimes my teeth will sometimes maybe go a bit sharper, like an animal.
I mean, is this a bit like what Dave Marrow? Do you remember Dave Marrow?
Yeah, I remember Dave. It's similar to that.
Now,
It's
having
definitely,
just mentioned he would hulk out. He said he would
yeah.
hulk out. Now, it was interesting when I interviewed Matt Todd in Glastonbury in early 2011 that he sent a little message. He said, you know, keep James close. Well, what do you think he means by that? I'm tending to tease a little bit, James and Michael.
I don't know. People don't trust me because they think they don't know who I'm involved with and this, that, and the other. I mean, I don't really care who trusts me and who doesn't. I'll still do my thing.
Yeah. Okay. So you're at this wonderful party. You're obviously meeting some very important people, and you don't get in there by just being hello, I'm an alien and I work on a blah blah blah. You must have some kind of passageway to get in there. And I noticed it in a lot of the photographs you sent in those days. You were driving around this pretty nice car. So I mean, you're being brought around certain places. So there must be
I,
something there to this.
well, I was introduced to them through my wife's family, which she comes from one of the most financially and politically powerful families in America.
Well, let's just talk about you and Haley. I mean, how do you get together? Where you went on a honeymoon? Did you lie on the beach? Oh, I mean, any little story about that?
Well, we met up in France originally, in northern France, in Roscoff, and
Was this an arranged thing? Was this
about
something
3 years ago. It,
you didn't
they've
sort of see
arranged,
each other at a party and fall in love at first sight? No.
well, they've arranged for us to meet because it's the two bloodlines, the Jewish bloodline and the Odinist bloodline. They're bringing them together. So they'd arranged that to put us together.
Does this have special relevance to your recent? Is it a son or a daughter?
My son, Dresden, Michael
Yeah,
Casbolt.
Dresden. Any reason why the name of that city that was so badly destroyed during World War II is that because it came up from the phoenix like the resurrection?
It's because it's definitely to signify that, which was the Zionist bombing of white Aryan people.
I mean, that was a thing that Churchill insisted on doing. We understand at the end of World War II, it's a tremendous criticism of the Royal Air Force was to destroy that beautiful city, and they've only awarded a medal and recognized Bomber Command really due to that raid.
Well,
Is
people,
is that is that why there's a significance to this, to your son
yeah,
being called?
it, people were still escaping out the city after the first bomb, and they went back for a second go and killed the people escaping out the city.
It's a
So,
terrible event. I mean, so it's Dresden's a bit of a heavy name.
well, it just seemed suitable for him. It just seems like the right name for him, because, like I said, they're trying to breed the two bloodlines together. And to go back, we met in France, and she had a bodyguard with her, French bodyguard, I think Secret Service. And he drove us to England on the ferry. We drove into England in Mercedes with tinted windows, and she stayed with me for a few months in Cornwall, and he was just driving us around everywhere.
Was that when you met Barry? Because I know you met Barry around about a time like that. Barry went down,
Um, Barry stayed with me, but
and there was a photograph of you and Barry together. Was that taken at that time?
no, this was before. This was a couple of years before that, because then Barry stayed with me.
Very,
Uh,
very, very simply, what is your relations with Barry? I mean, the connection. I mean, he
um,
came up with the Peasmore thing. Anya is now saying that she was at Peasmore and she met Lisa at Peasmore. What
he,
what what's
well,
what's the the little. I mean, just focusing on that.
I met Barry originally. My friend and I turned up at his house late at night one night. It must have been about 12 o'clock at night.
He probably wasn't too happy about that.
He was asleep upstairs, and he's like put his head out the top bedroom window. And then he invited us in, and we chatted about my connections to Peasmore, and he verified a few things that I remembered from the place, and
Such as.
just some of the layouts. I drew some diagrams of the layouts of the halls and the labs, and then they added. They were very similar to his drawings that he'd done. So,
What's it like down there? How did you? Which way you went in by which entrance?
well, when I was younger, I went in for the Greenham Common one in the countryside there.
Yeah.
And it was just like it's a tunnel with two roads that go down, and then there's a car park underground, and then there's hallways.
Richard D. Hall sniffed around a couple of surface buildings up around there, some very nice houses, thinking that maybe they had access of the village itself had access down. Is that relevant?
I think so. Because when Barry came to stay with me, he brought his friend Eva, and it was a bit weird.
Yeah, Eva from Prague, which we've interviewed.
She didn't really want us communicating with each other too much. She was always trying to.
She did.
Eva. She was like kind of always trying to block it, and it was. I don't know. It's a bit weird. Like Barry was always like hinting at things, but wouldn't tell me anything.
No, that's not like Barry.
And but yeah, I mean, to get the whole thing with Haley and I is they're breeding the two. Her granddad is was one of the biggest communists to come into America, and from Germany. They're from a town on the border of Holland and Germany, and the whole communism thing is like a Jewish religion almost. Yeah. And so they're connected to that side of things. So they want to breed in with my side, and then they want to create this. They can't carry out the New World Order if they're constantly fighting with each other. So they're working kind of together to create that symbol that I mentioned.
Yeah. Well, they can't create. I mean, no, you can't create a single entity if you are fighting amongst yourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
How is it they've only sort of worked that out now?
Well, this has been going on since the Russian Revolution, and before that, I think nobody wanted to talk, and there was too much hatred. But it finally got to the point where they had to put them together, and it was. I think when they discovered the spear, that changed a lot of things.
Yeah, now you said in part one you would like to talk about that. Now the spear, is this what Hitler was looking for?
Yeah, the spear of destiny. It's actually, officially they say it's the spear that pierced the side of Christ. But really it's Odin's spear.
Yeah, I mean the whole Christ things are a manufactured fraud really, isn't it? The one that so-called Christians follow.
It's based on the Norse legends anyway. The beings who are real people. And you see the bloodline, it's the House of Orange, the Dutch House of Orange, and other bloodlines.
I.e. the present Prince William of Orange.
Yeah, and it's other Germanic bloodlines, but it winds back to Odin himself. He seeded the bloodline. And his spear was passed through the generations to the leader, the male leader of each generation.
Now, what's the significance of Odin himself? What's his status in this game?
He is, I think, one of the founders of all this. It's where the ancestor of the Germanic people, I think is an extraterrestrial Anunnaki god, I think, from Aldebaran.
And where is that, under the earth?
I think it's on a different planet, but I think there's connections to Agartha under the earth, which this race are also.
Now, there are some people saying that the Nazis, the famous channelers, these Greta Garbo lookalike women in the 20s channeled information to give the Nazis the first
Well,
flying saucer.
I mean, you're talking about the Vril ladies. You
Yeah.
see, they seem to be turning up here in present time. Haley's got big connections with Maria Orsic. Uh, I mean, she could be Maria Orsic, and they look very similar. And Haley's remembering places she come from where Maria Orsic lived, places that Haley's never heard of. And I think Anya could be one of them. I think there's another woman, I forget her name. I think the Vril ladies are turning up again.
There's some people saying that the purpose of all this is to generate a global mind control network so that we generate a false reality for the elite and the rest of us have popped off.
Oh, I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
I'm suggesting that if people are sufficiently controlled, they believe they're somewhere that they're not.
Okay.
And that's based on what those women provided. They channeled enough information so that the Nazis at that time could create some kind of a flying saucer, but it wasn't. It was some kind of gate which allowed others in. Is that?
I think, yeah, definitely they were letting beings in, the Nazis, and flying out to all different places. Some say Hitler went to Aldebaran after the war, which I find interesting. They were definitely trying to travel to Aldebaran, where Odin was from himself.
He's still
They're trying
there?
to I'm not sure. There's, I think he makes trips here. I think he comes here. I think he meets with the CIA and things. As bizarre as that
I mean,
sounds.
Hitler seemed to be a bit of I mean, he had his time. I mean, surely, I thought he passed away around about early 60s.
Yeah, but a lot of the Nazis are still alive. I mean, you have Joseph Mengele still alive.
He's a pretty old man now.
Yeah, but he looks like he's in his 50s. How Alfred Bonner was Hitler's bodyguard, Otto Skorzeny.
Yes.
That's Alfred Bonner.
He
Should be,
stayed some time in Ireland together.
as far as I know. And Alfred Bonner looks in, like we discussed last time, a man in his 50s, but he should be over 100 years old now.
Now, how's that maintained? Is it stem cell replacement or what?
Yeah,
How's the life extension technology
Using
work?
stem cells, they're using growth hormones, anabolic steroids. They're using facelifts, CIA facelifts. They're using.
I mean, a facelift's one thing, but it's maintaining your body and the bones and all that. How does all that work?
I mean, they're using a combination of that with the formulas, with the Vril formulas themselves. So they're able to stay young, and they're using cybernetics too.
But they don't have control over the capacity to soul splice.
I think they're
This is what
trying.
Lisa's talking about. Lisa's talking about being soul spliced with a certain Nazi.
I think they're trying to keep their soul in one body, so it doesn't travel from one body to another. Trying to keep it in one body and make that one physical body stay alive forever. That's why they don't, if they get injured and get their arm blown off, they don't clone a new body, they just reattach a new arm. They're trying to keep one body alive.
So but that's that's an arm which is grown from them. It's their arm, but it's just been. It's not another. It's not another arm from another being.
It's been grown from them. So, and Joseph Mengele, interestingly enough, his address in Florida, where he was last known to live, was at a place called Ibis Court. He lived in a place called Ibis Court. And he went by the name of Steve Rebel. So, and he was supposed to have started the IBIS program in 1972, and he even has a street named after the program where he lives.
That's a bit up front. That's sort of displaying a certain arrogance.
Well, they're saying, we can name streets after this stuff.
So where's your function in this? You've been in the military, you've been trained, you've all beefed up. What are you? What did you do in the military? How did you enjoy your year?
Well,
I'm sorry. I mean, are you still in the military? I
no,
mean,
I'm not. I'm not at the moment. I first joined up in May, and I went to Fort Leonard Wood in the Ozarks, in the middle of the country, Missouri, and there was definitely training operations, super soldier based at that base because they were operations at shooting ranges where they'd give me the spear,
what
and
is this thing like? I mean, is
just
it?
like a gold spearhead,
Yeah.
and you just touch it and you absorb the energy from it. Or it's a DNA connection with the artifact because you're from the bloodline.
So
For if
once you
anybody
touch
else,
that, it's got something which will trigger within your
yeah, I think
bodily
it's
structure.
nanotechnology, and I think the exoskeleton is made out of the same metal. This comes from that Saturn ice moon, so you're connecting with it and you touch it because it's inside you, and it causes you can levitate with it. You can fly through the air through touching it, and generate force fields around your body. And I think they had Bravo 240s and M16 machine guns there on the shooting range, one particular shooting range at Fort Leonard Wood. And I just remember levitating up past the soldiers, and they were all shooting at me, and I was generating force fields, and the bullets were bouncing off the force fields.
Now, after touching the spear of destiny,
After touching the spear, I was able to levitate through the air. And I've got a DVD of the video footage of not me levitating, but the soldiers shooting at something down the range.
are you able to supply that? I mean, can we see
Yeah, I can
that?
supply it to you. I think I've got a couple of copies, but I can supply it to you. Yeah, I just feel like it needs to be analysed because I don't know how to do all that stuff. So
So
that
this
was
is part of your training, and you went
that,
through this.
that was training operations.
So I mean, you're talking about basically 7 months in the army training.
That's correct.
So you did boot camp, you did the old hey ho and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's correct.
And you're with us. Obviously, you're. I mean, I saw the photograph with the other guys. You were on the passing out parade. They were on a different uniform.
Yeah.
So, what were they? They were a lot younger than you were. Obviously, they're starting young guys, but they're not smaller physically.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, what's your primary function in doing this?
It was for training at Fort Leonard Wood, and then I was transferred to Fort Sam in July. And I carried on training. I was involved in live operations.
What kind of live operations?
Um, we were using the jump room at Sandia, and one time we were supposed to snatch somebody, bring them back.
Now, when you're doing that kind of jump, is there any preparation, any drugs, any kind of things you must do? Because what effect does it have on your physique?
Not too much for me, but they give you certain drugs like scopolamine where you're more relaxed, you can follow instructions more clearly, and you don't remember anything afterwards. It's difficult for me to remember the exact details, but I know we were at the jump room in Sandia, and we snatched somebody up from somewhere and brought them back. I think it could connect to the photograph of the guy who just turned up one day, and nobody actually knew who he was. And he looks like Einstein, who's working.
Oh, yeah, this is the Einstein photograph.
Yes.
I mean, he looks like Einstein, but he isn't Einstein. I mean, I was saying that Einstein's hair only grows a certain length. That guy's a different guy, but Anya was saying that he's not from this time. I mean, is this something?
I think that's possibly who we snatched up, maybe, and brought it back. There's definitely Einstein is involved in this DARPA program. He's still alive and he's still involved in it.
I find it very difficult to believe, Michael, because I mean, The Germans were dealing with non-Einsteinian physics. I don't know whether that's just a characteristic so that they wouldn't be following Jewish physics,
There's
so to
all
speak.
different types of this jump teleportation technology. There's all different machines, different types. So I think they're using scientists from both sides, and he's definitely involved in the DARPA program. You see, Haley says that the Einstein that you see in later years was actually a clone and not the original, and that all the people involved in this program, the scientists and everyone else, like Alfred Bono and George Bush Sr., Joseph Mengele, they all had plastic surgery. So they don't look exactly like the original person, but they look quite very similar. So I don't know. I need to find out more about that picture. Just the guy turned up. Some people said he was saying he was a German physicist. That's what he turned up. Other people saying he was an ambassador from like Kyrgyzstan or something.
So what was the division doing? What's its primary function, if that's
He was
possible?
a medic, and the code was 68 Whiskey, 68W. So it's combat medic. Basically putting people back together on the battlefield and taking them to the hospital. So that was the company I was put in July when I went to Fort Sam. I was put in medic, combat medic.
Were there any other people there from different countries? Were you the only non-US military?
There was one guy who I kind of got friendly with, was Jewish, ex-Israeli army guy.
Yeah, I think is that the special ops guy that you had talking at the photograph?
Yeah. And I got friendly with him, which is ironic because both sides have been warring at each other for so long and we get friendly. But so I think I was involved in an operation with him where they sent us through the jump gate. And I don't know, I just remember a wordless shooting, and it was.
What is your enemy when you go through there? What's your target? Or do you have an enemy through there? Or are you just on a mission? What's your reason to be there?
To go through the jump gates, you mean? Well, it could be the first time I remember we were going to a different time zone to snatch somebody up and bring them back. The later one with the Israeli guy, remember going through jump gate and we were on some operation where it was just like gunplay, and it was around the time Sandy Hook. Well, I don't really want to go there too much.
It's too disturbing. A gunplay.
Well, yeah, it was. I don't really want to remember. It's difficult to remember. I got certain flashbacks.
I mean, okay, that's in the recent past. I mean, what about these jump gates? What about these things that you're jumping to? Where are they? Are they a different physical world or what?
Oh, they were just other parts of the country sometimes. In this time zone. And then other times it was other countries in different time zones.
I mean,
Yes.
you're just talking about ordinary time zones on the Earth.
Yeah.
In other words, you weren't
There's nothing
jumping
out of-
physically in time.
Yeah, it's just travel around the Earth, but it's not anything out this world. You're not on like moons of Saturn or anything like that. Well, the Brotherhood of Saturn is very much based with the Nazis and the Fourth Reich. But I mean, they have all sorts of facilities. They have like an underground prison, which is on one of the Sirius planets. That's just like it looks like the Pentagon. It's the same shape, and it has it's on the seabed of one of the like this water world in Sirius, but it can detach itself from the seabed and fly out the water and go to a different location. Now, I never really watched Stargate, but this thing is Pentagons, Pentagon within a Pentagon's different sections. Each section of the prison houses a different alien race, and it's also the most dangerous prisoners.
Who
in
puts
the
them there?
stocks.
Where do they come from? Why
It's
Sirius?
run by the Fourth Reich. And they house the most dangerous prisoners in the solar system of different races. And I've seen this kind of thing in Men in Black 3, the new Men in Black film.
So who or what really is the Fourth Reich if they're dealing with prisoners on Sirius and special metals from the moons of Saturn?
I think they're just basically like an inter kind of galactic police force in a way.
So they're here on Earth doing what? What's the goal? What's the thing that's going to happen? Because people are getting pretty depressed. They're losing a lot of their livelihoods. Things are going downhill.
I think they're looking to like get back to the Garden of Eden, like a paradise planet with forests everywhere, like a big national park.
That means massive population reduction and
Yeah,
few
massive
people actually.
population reduction and terraforming the planet, and
But
almost like
terraforming the planet to whose benefit? A non-human
that's
species?
what the Fourth Reich want. They want to get back to the kind of Garden of Eden. It almost like a big like hippie swinger colony, where like everybody walks around naked, and there's not all the time, but people like walk around naked in the woods, and every man has 5 wives, and they're just going around, and people are like sort of having orgies everywhere.
And you pick fruit off the tree and everything's fine and
Yeah.
hunky dory and there's no
Yeah,
work
and
has to
you live
be
in, like
done.
these little eco sort of houses, and there's all beautiful cities and things, but there's only like one race there, which is the Aryan race. So that they're looking to get back to the kind of Garden of Eden paradise sort of setting.
And how do they intend to achieve that?
I think they're just gonna they slowly take over all the government, which they already have, and I think they're going to take some people off planet, possibly, but not everyone. I think there's going to be nuclear wars. I think there's going to be a nuclear strike on America, definitely.
Now this, what do you mean there is definitely going to be a nuclear strike on
Well, I
America?
think there is at some point going to be a nuclear strike on America.
I mean, that strikes that would be, are you going to blame China on this or what?
Yeah, something like that. And then you create the Third World War, and it's more population reduction.
But what about all the radiation and tidying up the place? How do you deal with
I
that?
think it's easy enough to do. I think you can just terraform the planet with the technology. I think that
And
the
obviously,
technology-
when things like this happen, they must have a safe place to go while all this is going on.
well, they can go underground or to other countries, but I don't think they're going to nuke the whole planet. I think the plan is to nuke America, and everybody else will fall into line. Just nuke some major cities.
So they're going to nuke America?
I think that's the plan. Or some major cities in America.
And then that will create a counter strike against all the other cities in the world. By who? How's
No,
it going to happen? World's a big place.
I think they're just planning to take out America, and then everybody else will just fall into line. Everyone else will be so shocked, it'll be like, no, we're not going to use any more nuclear weapons.
So that's not. I mean, you're in America right now. Does that not worry you?
No, because I'll be in the right place at the right time, as I always am.
That'll be off planet.
Canada?
That the in Canada.
Possibly.
Well, what's the function then of the Fourth Reich? Wipe out America. You got a lot of Africans left over. You got all the other races. What's going to happen to them?
I think they're going to try and deport them
Where to?
to Africa. There's a lot of programs, there's a lot of charity programs that are being used now in America where they're putting a lot of money into kind of tempting Africans to move back to Africa and give them social benefits. They're giving them money for houses, money for property if they'll go back. So there's programs underway now in America to do that. I forget the name of them. There's one major one, but I forget the name of it. So I
Well,
think,
it's getting a bit late. Is Haley available to say hello, or
she'd rather not, to be honest, Miles.
she's a hard-working mother, got
True.
lots of responsibilities.
Yeah.
So how long? What's your next stage? What's your next project? What's your next thing that you want to do?
Um, I was supposed to leave the army. I signed a 6-year contract, but I left after 7 months because I was supposed to go for another job. I was supposed to gain 180 days of military experience so I could go for another job.
Which is restricted until we find out in the next exciting episode.
That's correct.
And do you still work for the Brits? So you still you with MI6.5 or what?
Um, I still maintain contact, but things have cut off a lot from that side of things.
And you like America?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah. You enjoying yourself?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. You like to get up in the morning,
Well, I had to
afternoon,
get up
mid-afternoon, maybe
at
after
4.
3.
When I was in the army, I had to get up at 4 a.m. every morning. So
Oh my God.
I'm just kind of enjoying lying in a bit later at the moment.
So okay, there's a number of players in this game. You got Anya, you got Alara, you got Sarah Stanger, you've got
Yep.
Lisa, you got Barry. Let's go through these. I mean, there's a lot of people keep on saying there's a James Casbolt in there somewhere. What about that side of things?
What do you mean by that statement? I'm not quite
Well,
sure.
you seem to be you come up with a lot of other people's lives in the past. So do you want to talk anything about that?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely involvement with some of those people.
I mean, for instance, Sarah Stanger. There's Lisa
I
or
think there's
Nikki.
definitely
You might know her as Nikki.
there's definitely involvements with Sarah. I mean, I remember Sarah, but she's having similar things to what happened to Haley, where she came to America and they wouldn't let her in the country. They put her on the plane back.
Yeah,
So,
that was for the Super Soldier Conference last year.
yeah, and I
I think
mean,
that was because of the blogs she sent.
yeah, but I don't agree with that, not letting her in the country. I think they should let her in.
I mean, she's so. What about Alara? You've been not Alara, Anya.
And yeah.
Yeah. Originally, we were going to be together. I didn't get that email about the 18th of January, but
Right.
you talk to her. She mentioned that you were sharing some photographs and things. Is there anything more on that?
Well, I contacted her when I was training in the army and sent her some stuff.
Yeah.
So, but then, yeah, I mean, I remember Anya. I got a few memories with Anya in, so she's definitely involved.
I mean, for instance, I find it difficult that you'd be allowed to transmit from a U.S. military base from your iPhone or your smartphone anything unless they would track it. I mean, how were you able to do that? You must have been given permission to do so.
No, I smuggled my iPhone into the camp. We were training at one particular camp, Camp Bullis, for 2 weeks. So I smuggled it in and took the footage from inside.
Is that not being a bit naughty, Michael?
Yeah, but this is what I mean. I knew that if I didn't get some more evidence, that people would see the picture of me getting sworn into the army and say, "Oh, this is staged. He's just."
Well, I mean, yeah,
a soldier."
I have to say, John Irwin just, he's good fun, John. You know,
And
he says
he's-
anybody could do that. Get anybody with a military uniform, stand up anywhere, in Madame Tussauds somewhere, and just do that.
Exactly. So that's why I got some more of the footage, and for other reasons too. So I'd have a bit more evidence. I knew people would say that.
Now, on this side, we're getting some smoke signals, which I'd call them, that the British military were involved with some kind of time travel experiments with the Nazis in Britain during the war. What about that?
Well, that's the first I've heard about that, but it would be interesting if the info could come out. I'd like to
I
have a
mean,
look.
there's some people have contacted us where there's a base in the middle of the in the Midlands,
Yeah,
long since defunct, quite deep, where there was Nazi some kind of Montauk style
yeah.
stuff
That's
involved.
yeah, that sounds about right.
In what way? Why does that resonate with you, as some people would say?
Well, I heard some people in the NSA talking about a base in the Midlands years ago. This was 2008 or something. So, no, I'd never really heard of a base in the Midlands before.
Yeah, I don't have the exact name. It's just a little bit of stuff coming this way.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about with Lisa, with her connections? She's
Well, I met her in Penzance, a few years back, and we had a good talk. And I found it very interesting that the last section of Basis 9, where you had Lisa on, you were talking about what's the guy's name? Adams?
oh
Ron
god,
Adams? Is it Ron Adams?
The Gurdjieff movement. Gurdjieff was a Greek-Russian mystic, long since dead, and his philosophy was that we are all asleep. We are all robots, taken over by the autonomous nervous system and everything else, etc. And his aim was to wake people up, to make them aware, which I suppose is the end result of most magical rituals anyway, is to raise one's awareness, etc. Yeah.
So what about Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophical movement
Society.
and Hitler and all that kind
well,
of stuff?
she claimed, the Theosophical Society certainly claimed to be in touch with what they call the secret masters, which again could be extraterrestrials. I've got a theosophical book here that contains a portrait of, this is the one I was looking for. This one. Unfortunately it's in German, but it's Madame Blavatsky's book, and it's got the Tree of Life, but in the front it's also got, where are we? It's also got Lamb, who's an extraterrestrial. So there is this extraterrestrial link with all the
Who
societies.
you have behind you there.
One on the wall behind me, that's right.
Who is he? What's his significance? He looks like a big grey.
But he-
Crowley's superimposed his face onto him, unfortunately, hasn't he, really?
Yes, to a certain extent. But he's one of he's presumably one of the leading extraterrestrials who passes knowledge down to the human race for whatever ends.
What did Madame Blavatsky have in connection with Hitler? Didn't the whole Hitler movement and the Second World War and all that?
Entirely different. I mean,
Is that-
they're separate entities, but there's no doubt that the Nazis and the SS were into ritual magic.
Doesn't this bring us into the Fourth Reich and the New World Order again?
Again, it does. Yes, it does. I mean,
So there seems to be a recurrent
there's some interesting
connections
links
between
with the UFO concept and the secret flying craft that the Nazis had in the last war.
Do you think they were real?
I think they were real. Yeah. I mean, I've seen lots of documentation and photographs of these things that actually flew. Now, there's an
That's
interesting
anti-gravity craft. That's man-made anti-gravity craft.
man-made anti-gravity craft.
So do you think
Discs,
they had
flying discs.
They had a connection with the Greys.
I don't know. I
Then-
mean, that's a possibility. It's a possibility. Or maybe the fact that they were working on discs themselves made them a focus for the Greys. The Greys came along and said, "Hey, you know, you're working on stuff that we've already got anyway. Perhaps we can help you. We can strike a
Crowley
deal."
was able to manifest these things. Madame Blavatsky and her
Had contact with them.
Had
So
contact
there's
with them.
there is this extraterrestrial link with these groups.
extra dimensional,
Wherever.
which are contactable by some form of
That's
ritual
right.
magic.
That's right. That's right. Sure.
So you're able to pick up on your radio receivers certain pulsing waveforms.
That's right. That's right.
For mind control. Do you think that that's happening a great deal here? Do you think there's a?
I tend to think so. Yeah, I think it's logical. It's been
What sort
experimented
of
with
frequencies
for
do you
years.
think we're talking about?
We're talking about ELF frequencies and VLF frequencies. We're talking about, for instance, the thing called woodpecker. The signal. There's this signal emanating from it's supposed to be emanating from somewhere in the USSR. but it could be. I mean, I think it could be underground, but it's transmitting millions of watts. This thing, it's sitting at the moment. I mean, I can demonstrate this if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no problem. Let's turn on the. Let's just punch in the frequency. There it is. Now that's woodpecker. That's sitting at 100 kilohertz. It used to be all over the shortwave band. Now this is just below the range of the domestic radio receiver, which stops at 150 kilohertz. This is sitting at 100. Now this is transmitting millions of watts. That's a very strong signal. I mean, if you look at the signal strength meter on that receiver, and I'm using a very simple aerial. Now, anything with the correct resonating structure is going to be vibrating like mad with that signal. And looking at the thing on an oscilloscope, I haven't got one set up here, but the basic carrier wave of that 100 kilohertz, superimposed on it are little peaks of about 7 cycles, which is alpha, a roundabout alpha. So there's this basic 100 kilohertz carrier wave that's carrying something else, and it's all over the place. You know, you can hear the signal strength.
So do you think we have a power base of people who are somehow controlling us?
I'm convinced. Yes, I think that's right. I mean, you know, I mean, human nature is that there are followers and leaders, and there are going to be leaders that climb right to the top and manipulate everything. Manipulate the masses. The masses are not really interested, they're not really worried about being manipulated. They're quite happy with their football and their beer and their cigarettes and watching EastEnders and Coronation Street, and that's it. They're all placebos. That's you know that's what they're quite happy with, and they're easily dominated, very easily dominated. I think it is a worry, because it's obviously making people do things which they don't want to do, or they wouldn't normally do. It's changing behaviour patterns. It can change behaviour patterns of whole countries. Talking about millions of people. Sure, there are lots of projects. You know, the trouble with these not specifically. No, I can't, because I think there are lots of when these projects become known. Everybody knows about HARP and Majestic and everything else, and it's bandied around. It's on the internet and it's written about in books. Then those projects become figureheads, red herrings, and the real projects are not known. We don't know the names of the real projects. I mean, you know, heaven knows what those projects are. And when those names are leaked out, then they would be closed down and become red herrings, and new ones would be formed. But they will always remain secret, just beyond range.
Do you think you've had any personal contact?
Yeah.
With that?
Yes, I do actually. I think I've.
Do you think that's what's happening to a lot of other people?
Sure, but I think it's the way that I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think any contact that I've ever had, with aliens or extraterrestrials or interdimensional creatures, whatever, has enhanced my awareness and enhanced my wisdom and enhanced my life, because I see things differently. I'm aware. I can.
Such as, can you illuminate on that? Pardon the phrase.
I can see both sides of things, if you like. I can assess people. I can look behind facades. I can change the laws of causality to a certain extent. I can do things along those lines.
You can compress time.
That's
that
right.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah, it's enhanced my creativity. I can write far better than I ever could. There seem to have been circuits in my brain that have been opened.
So you don't think the abduction or the contact phenomenon is necessarily a negative thing?
No, I don't. I don't think it is. No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is negative. I don't think it's. No, I don't.
But do you think there are certain government things which are going on?
I think obviously, the human being is the most savage animal on the face of this earth, and I think that domination, if it's a paramount concept, would be at the cost of millions of people. You see what I mean?
Lisa wants to talk here, but we can't
Lisa,
talk
speak
because
up.
she's off camera.
No, so I just want to ask a question. You know, you're saying the abduction whole thing is not necessarily negative. What do you think about the supposed military abductions that are leading people to believe they've actually been abducted by extraterrestrials?
That's a different thing.
And then
thing.
they
That's
reprogram
something.
you.
That's something different. I mean, that's what I'm saying about the human being being the most savage animal on the face of the earth. Having lots of motivations, which can be pretty dreadful, for whatever means, for whatever end. You know, I mean, the experiments that are being done to I'm convinced that, you know, the reality of 1984, although that's long since gone, of breeding races of slaves, breeding races of engineers. You see what I mean? Manipulation. I mean, they can do this now. Genetic manipulation.
You all right? Am I all right?
Don't film. Not me, please. Come on, walk down there. Yes. Sure.
Where is this?
Huh?
Where is this?
Epping. Hot tall. Tall.
What are we doing here?
Well, we're just a load of nutters, really. So, we thought we'd come up here. Now, apparently somebody once saw a vending machine. An alien vending machine.
We're doing with alien shit.
Yes, we believe there might be an alien. Who knows? But it's good fun. I might take a photograph for you. Go past this line, ha ha ha. Those symbols are real.
Why do we have all these symbols
I
here?
know. Ron?
He's got a bit to go. Is this the entrance?
Should have been the kitchen. God, there's no old grate in there. We'll get there.
What's that about the earring?
His earring he's wearing is a skull with a little snake. A skull on the top of a snake. Most interesting, odd symbol, you know, for an earring.
In what respect?
Well, definitely sort of occult leanings or whatever. Esoteric, for want of a better word.
You're not there.
Military style. It's very interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I want to ask him if he's military.
No, but I wouldn't.
He's dressed in military
He's
clothes.
got military clothing on, yeah. I think interesting why the panic. And what's the odds about having the pictures published? It shouldn't make any difference whatsoever.
They might be concerned about them.
Why? Or what? I'm looking for antennas, but there aren't any. The only thing up on the roof are 2 lightning conductors. But there's no antennas up there, nothing like that. No. It's amazing, isn't it? If they're going to restore that bit there.
So have you got a car up here? You've got a car up here? Right,
Are you going to the lake?
who on earth are friends of Coppet Hall? And what? I mean, it sounds a bit, doesn't it? Exciting.
How did
What?
he know we were here? Where did he come up from? Unless the other people told him.
Huh?
Maybe the other people told him. We went down the other side.
No, surely not. Isn't that funny? All that, my memory was of a lake.
Him turning up on film.
No. I don't have him turning up on film.
Do you have him on film?
I do, yeah. Where did I from?
Smoking like
Which
this.
machine? The vending machine.
The vending machine with the pot noodles and chocolate bars in it.
That must have been in the 70s that happened. And it was a fairly local UFO group who held a Ouija board session underground in the basement. And according to the chap, he said exactly at midnight, it said something about, on the Ouija board it said something about get out or something, and then at midnight this vending machine appeared.
I mean, this is serious.
Yeah. No, I'm not conning it. This is what I told them.
That's what made me come up here in the first place.
Yeah. And they all got out, ran out, clambered out as best as they could. And one chap was found at the gates making crosses out of two bits of wood, foaming at the mouth and screaming in a panic, and they took him off and he had a nervous breakdown. That's all I heard.
And the last time that you were here, what's her name decided to run off in a panic? And
No, what happened was we were around in the stables. We'd actually gone right round, and for some reason he didn't cotton on to the fact that we were there that time, because we spent quite some time there and actually went through the little tunnel in the bit that he says is just the causeway, which you didn't get a chance to see, but I've taken photographs of it, and when I get them developed you can see them. And we went round to the stables, and just as we sort of kind of passed the line of being off the footpath and in the stables, we heard this like grating noise, like ding, 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 like metal on metal, but it was like rhythmic, you know. Ding, 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 ding. So I don't know if it was some kind of an alarm. But then after that...
It could be alarmed. I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be difficult, would it? I mean,
And then after that, Grace just started getting a bit nervous, and we headed back, and we got back to the car, and she'd had a dictaphone. And I said, did you catch the noise on the dictaphone? She tried to play it, and the whole thing had completely buggered up. The dictaphone wasn't working, there was nothing on the tape.
maybe they take you around and shoot
Like
you.
that tree, there's something wrong about that tree.
Yeah, there is, isn't there?
It's poisoned by something. And the other tree out there is poisoned by something as well.
It seems to be mutated, doesn't it? It's not growing normally. It's not.
Yeah, well, it's diseased, I suppose. But that's a symptom of something hostile.
Well, I like that. Looks like a grey, look, doesn't it? It looks like a grey.
Yeah.
I'll keep that. I'm gonna put that on a little stand. It's almost a grey, look.
Yeah, Ron Adams, yes.
Ron Adams, yeah.
Yeah,
And
Ron at the he had terrifying experiences at Rendlesham at Bentwaters.
Well, I found it interesting that you'd mentioned he'd been abducted on Bentwaters, and the family had a terror of large spiders.
Huge spiders. I met one at Sky Television. It was a pretty horrific experience.
Well, because apparently there's some information that's come out of naval intelligence, and I've got vague memories. There was, this was around 2008. There was an off-planet operation to, I think it was one of the moons of Jupiter, and it was called the Diamond Spider Wars. And there was some kind of huge spiders that populated this one particular moon, and they had like diamond exoskeletons. And we were there on an operation against them. I got vague memories, but I lost a lot of weight at the time. And like hella, if you see my pictures with Haley when I first met her, I'm really skinny.
Yeah.
And even when I did Basis 9, I was still very thin. I just got back my normal weight and muscular mass. And I think we've been cut off from food supplies on that particular moon for a while. I think we were starting to starve.
I mean, it's interesting that there was a science fiction film, I think Apollo 21 or something, where they had there were lots of spiders on the moon, which killed
There was supposed to be some attack in India with giant spiders, Loads of people died, and there was mass panic. Huge tarantula-like creatures were like jumping through the air, biting people and killing them. And the guy, a certain person in Naval Intelligence, said that was the diamond spiders that brought their eggs or whatever it is, their pods, all these sorts of weird insect pods coming down to Earth.
Yeah.
Their pods to India. And there'd been an attack, diamond spider. We were trying to stem the attack from the source, the moon. I think it was on Jupiter or Pluto, I can't remember now.
Why were they attacking? What brought them here? Why would they come here?
I think for food. I think there's all sorts of these strange pods landing around.
I think that there's a program in British schools about an alien pod which is there to disinform and shock young children.
Well, the pod that came down in St Ives that they sent me to, an octoform had come out the pod and scrambled up a wall and smashed the window, gone into an attic of a house, and was there in the dark. They sent me in to neutralise it. Now that was an octoform, 8-legged large spider in the room. Maybe.
And, I mean, and is there any way of any way of getting any data on that?
Okay, in the papers that day, St Ives Times and Echo, there was a report. Cars had all of a sudden set on fire in the town.
Yeah. Now, Lisa investigated that. It didn't seem to add up.
It was in the paper, and I had the article. I had both articles, and I put them on. I sent them to somebody. I think I might have even put them on Facebook. And
again, how did you get to this off-world place? How do you do that? How do you survive like that?
Talking about the operation in St Ives, when these spider things came down.
Yeah.
Cars set on fire for no apparent reason because stuff had fallen out of the sky and set cars on fire. Then there was about 3 or 4 military jets came over my daughter's school, extremely low, and their wings were almost touching. And they flew over the school really low. If they would have made a mistake, they would like crashed into each other and crashed on the school.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there was fire came out of the garden. A fire started in the garden of a house near my house, and there was all fire engines, and there was like government vans from different agencies, like the Environmental Protection Agency. The government vans there, and I found out they're involved with crash retrievals. If something comes down, they're there. It's like an intelligence thing. And they put me, I went to the fire, I walked up there, and there was all police. They put me in the back of the van and gave me like a hazmat suit, like a backpack on.
Yeah.
Like incendiary flamethrower thing, and I went into the attic. I walked up there, basically set this big spider on fire, and then just walked out back into the van.
And what is that the kind of operation that you would have done this on the spiders from Jupiter?
No, that was a big military operation with thousands of people.
And how does that how is the logistics of such an operation able to occur? How do they get up there?
They're sending ships up to the space program from Earth, from different bases, a lot of them in America. And they're under like cover of nuclear tests. They're under cover of like different rockets taking off. And I think they're taking them through gates in the outer atmosphere then to these locations.
I mean, are you referring to that science fiction program, that science fiction film where they're killing bugs, the giant bugs?
Oh, Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
It was similar, yeah, it's very similar to that.
I mean, that's a big operation. There must have been some trace somewhere of people been able to see a lot of stuff like that going on.
Well, there's always stuff taking off. They're not going to see much of them going through the gates when they get in the outer atmosphere. And then it's a big military, they're storming the surface of the moons with a lot of ground troops. And then they're going underground into the caverns, just basically exterminating the lot.
Do they not feel a bit pissed off that they're being attacked like this? Is there not going to be some kind of counter attack?
They apparently, some of these big spiders attacked underground bases in Virginia, CIA bases, killed everyone in the underground bases, is what I've heard. There's a big underground war going on. So when I mentioned about the 5 CIA agents who had been arrested at Bexar County Courthouse here in San Antonio, and they came from underground up through the entrance there. 24 hours later, there was a 4.8 earthquake in San Antonio, record-breaking. And the seismic waves reading were different. It was they nuked the underground base underneath Joint Base San Antonio.
We've had a number of those, for instance, in England. I mean, for instance, there's some people saying the whole Lake District area is a facility for non-humans of some kind. Likewise, the underground nukes, the underground number, about 4 or 5 of them across England, which happened before all the ones in America happened, where some kind of base is being taken out.
Yeah, they were. I mean, yeah, something went on. There was nuked the underground base, and this was 2011. Underground base below Fort Sam. So we're not sure the reason why it was nuked, but it was definitely nuked. People can check that report out themselves and source your file.
Well, we're getting to the end of the part 2. It's getting quite late here. It's 3:45 in the morning in little London town. Is there something you want to really get across?
I think if we're going to do another part, I should talk about the me coming into physical contact with the Odin spear, and Gridkeeper was involved too.
Gridkeeper, right? Yeah, we can do that. Do you want to do that tonight, or do you want to do that on Thursday?
We can do that on Thursday.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's just getting a wee bit late for myself here.
Okay.
So if you wanted to regroup, it's good. This is basis 23. You missed basis 21, for Christ's sake. I mean, that was a big number, you know.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for almost 20 years, for crying out loud. So when are we going to get embedded status, and we can get the real HD pictures of the real event going on and all that?
Well, I'm working on it.
Now, for instance, Anya she described very briefly about a TR-23, the TR-3. Oh, our connection's going down.
Yeah, the connection's starting to break up.
Yeah, I just noticed that. So is there any final message you want to get across on effectively part 2 of basis 23?
I think the 2 bloodlines coming together is important. I think the understanding of where it comes from.
What's the function? What's the primary purpose of this bloodline? Species replacement, because we've got an awful lot of children being born with different DNA, and the education system has kind of suppressed these new children with the way that they're much smarter. What about them? Is this natural humanity getting better, or is this new bloodline that you're talking about there to suppress that? What's the actual benefit to this?
I think they're just the Odin bloodline is just trying to survive. There's always been a lot of attacks on it.
Why is it trying to? What's in the closing minutes? Why is it being attacked? Why is it being hostile? Well, what's the reason for that? Why is it particularly under attack?
I think the Zionist bloodline wanted to suppress it, get rid of it through interbreeding, mixed races. So I think there's going to be major actions in those areas. I think they might take some of the other races off planet.
Send them back home?
But all of them.
Well, signal's getting pretty bad, I can notice on the internet here. So we'll call it a day for this. We'll regroup for Thursday and continue.
Okay, sounds good, Miles.
And give my regards to the mother and the wonderful kid. Does it keep you up at night? You have to get up at night and all that?
Sometimes, yeah. But it's
or do you have your staff to deal with that? your
No,
buffer or something?
unfortunately, it's just Haley and I at the moment.
Well, okay. Well, we'll regroup and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, good to speak to you, Miles, and
Okay.
I'll speak to you on Thursday.
Okay. Cheers. Bye. Bye.